Welcome to another edition of Within WordPress, the podcast about people inside the WordPress community. And with us today is a very good friend of mine, actually, Raquel. Welcome, Raquel.
Thank you.
Um,
Glad to be here.
yeah, well, you should be. It's a fun podcast, and I get a lot of positive feedback on the guests and all the variety of the guests. So I'm very happy to have you on this episode. The question I ask everyone is, where may they know you from?
In the WordPress community, you may know me from one, Phoenix, Arizona, in the US. That is where I reside
Yeah,
permanently.
yeah,
Very involved with the community here, but I definitely get around. So I go to a lot of WordCamps and I've been to several WordCamp Europe iterations. So
you have.
been all over the place there. Was actually recently in Porto and also Athens. And I'm sure people might have seen me on the socials or in the platform formerly known as Twitter, and I'm gonna I guess still call it that.
Yeah,
And
uh, it's it's complicated, I would say.
yes, yes, yes. Um, but Instagram, FB, LinkedIn, all the places. So I do get around. Those are some places that you might recognize me from.
Yeah. So you briefly mentioned you're very active in the WordPress community in terms of organizing WordCamp Phoenix. How
Mhm.
long have you been doing that? And maybe the bigger question is, how did you get into that?
So I've been a volunteer since 2014 or 13. Forget which one exactly, but I've been an organizer since 2015, essentially,
Yeah.
uh, for our 2016 iteration. So, and the way I got into that, I mean, specifically into organizing WordCamp was at the time, the organizers, where this was like from the early years, from like 2009 to 2014. It was located in a suburb of Phoenix, and they it was one of the biggest word camps in the entire world at the time.
Hmm.
This was obviously early on, but I mean, it was definitely a super camp. It was like 800 people. I mean, in the
Nice.
US, I mean, the only one bigger was San
San
Francisco
Francisco.
at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had it was the beginning. Everybody was figuring things out. So the team at the time would just burn insurance. It just kept burning out. So they had approached me at the end of 2014 saying, "Hey, we really needed a lead org." But I at the time considered myself quite a baby with everything. And that was when this is a whole other backstory, but I was just really starting to discover who I was and what my giftings were. And I just wasn't ready. So I
Yeah.
could not actually organize at the time. But then because of that, we had no WordCamp for 2015. And that was enough to cause me some pain, which is why we usually make decisions
Yeah.
to then say, okay, this needs to be done. So me and two others kind of spearheaded that our 2016 iteration. We brought it to Phoenix proper, and it's been, I mean, honestly, amazing ever since. It's been absolutely wonderful. And I'm not being fluffy. It really has been.
You're making me think I should consider going to WordCamp Phoenix next time around.
100%, Memphis.
Oh, dude. So, such a long schedule already.
I know, I know.
So and how was it that you were on the radar to be invited to be on the org team?
I mean, there's a little bit more backstory to that, but in 2010, co-founded a WordPress agency with my ex-partner. It's called Modifect. It actually still exists today.
Yeah.
And it was born out of, again, pain and a problem of during the housing crisis.
Yeah.
A lot of people were losing their day jobs, and I was a full-time stay-at-home mom. And my ex-partner did websites on the side and lost his day job. And we are like, what do we do? So we decided to just take this side gig that was pulling in, I mean, a decent amount of money per year for us. And so we're like, let's just take it full throttle and see what happened.
Yeah.
So we did. That's where I joked that I was an accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that, yeah, that started a whole journey of self discovery. And my first, I first came on and helped him, obviously, just a lot of admin. I never was actually like building in WordPress, but just a user, just
Yep.
using it and things like that. But of course, any business needs all sorts of management and help. So did all of that. Finally went to my first WordCamp in 2012 and just fell in love. It was WordCamp San Diego.
Yep.
I was blown away. I mean, completely floored. I had been part of communities my entire life, whether it was school or church. That was pretty much it at the time. But I could not believe out of all the communities I've been a part of, this was the first time I ever felt truly wanted, accepted, and appreciated for no reason other than existing.
Yeah.
And I just could not believe it. I was absolutely floored. And this gets a little philosophical, but especially coming from a place where you're supposed to be a very kind community,
Yeah.
but in actuality turned into a very much like a peacock community, which could be said for some WordPress today. But at the
Sure.
time,
Sure.
in 2012, it was just so grassroots and so special. And
Yeah.
so because of that, I went back home and then started getting real involved with the local community and noticed over the next couple of years that I was actually more involved with the community at large, whether it was throughout the US or the world. And then really finally started to like pour into Phoenix as my actual local community. And once I did that, I caught the attention of,
Yeah.
the organizers, and they saw what I didn't fully see in me yet. And that's how that started.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a similar story in that regard, but the only difference is I had to organize my first WordCamp to experience a WordCamp, which is a weird experience in of itself. I knew what it was, or we knew what it
Yeah.
was, and then we started organizing the very first version of WordCamp Netherlands, which is 2009. We had no idea what it was going to look like. This is us taking a stab at what it probably should be. I have no idea, but the
Yeah.
warm and welcoming feeling was exactly the same. Same experience for me as
Yeah.
well. Wow. So you started alongside with your partner,
Mhm.
learning the world of WordPress, and then starting contributing. What was the moment you went like this? And maybe you already gave the answer, but what was the moment you went like this? This is really where I want to spend my future. Is that the actual San Diego WordCamp already, or did that start later?
Now it was later. That moment was just pivotal because I was just blown away, like I said. But it was gradual in at the time I was still very much mom, and still my kids were very little at the time.
Hmm.
And so I was doing a lot for them, but then at the same time growing and being an entrepreneur and learning and then seeing this thing, WordPress in the community and just WordPress that I was attracted to. So there's just strong attraction.
Yeah,
So as I just was going to events and things like that, I just started to take inventory of what I could do and what I couldn't do. And for me, I feel like the moment was when I postponed finishing my degree. So I remember saying that when the organizers approached me because fresh out of high school, I went straight to a one of the biggest universities in the entire United States, and really, really loved the time there. Did really well, but I was 19 and kind of young and dumb, and got married and got distracted,
yeah,
so I didn't finish school. And so when my kids at this time were all in grade school and started this business, so now I had time to go back to school. So I did. I went back to school, finished the first part, like the associates, but then was going to go on for my bachelor's and had told the organizers that was one of the reasons why I couldn't, is they needed to finish school.
yeah,
So it was still finishing. And then that pain I told you about when we didn't have a WordCamp 2015 for Phoenix. And here I am just in love all over the place. So the first time I went to WordCamp Europe, which was in Sevilla.
yep,
That's the first time. No, I met you. I already knew you from Testonomics, but
yeah,
first time I met you in your turf.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And
I remember.
yeah,
I remember
yeah,
having us having dinner as well. I think.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
We were hanging out a few times
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
beach. Um, but so I just had to have a WordCamp Phoenix. And I did not think I wasn't going to finish school, but I just did not go back that fall. Well, I got the associates and I didn't go back that following semester because the idea was to go back to Arizona State, which is where I was.
yep.
And here I am, 2023, and still have not gone back because WordPress completely took my world. Like I mean, even my job now requires bachelor's degree, but because I have the network and the experience, I have the job. So I still want to go back, finish just because I like to finish what I start.
Yeah.
But, but
Yes.
that was definitely the moment, I think, when I set that aside and said, I want to do this instead.
Yeah. So, uh, you briefly mentioned in the job that you do now. Um, so, what is it you do now in the community? Because you say ex partner, so I'm guessing it's no longer in um, Modifect.
Eh,
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Yeah, no. And let's see, the very beginning, 2018, well, I guess it was prior to that, I really started to understand what I loved. And I started to get approached by WordPress companies
Hmm.
to say, hey, maybe you might want to come work for us. And I was like, wait, what? No, this is what I do. I do Modifect. But then I guess the seed was planted. I was incepted. I like to joke.
Yeah.
And I just started to think about like, wait, I could do what I love 100% of the time. And, it's not that I didn't love what I built with my ex partner, which was Modifect, but I didn't love what I did. I did a lot of like admin, a lot of
Yeah.
like COO, like just a lot of CFO. And I just it's just not what I love. I always joke that like, I might be excellent at cleaning toilets and doing the dishes, but I don't love that. I don't want to keep doing that. Not that finances and operations are comparable to cleaning toilets, wash dishes.
Well,
I did not love that at
no,
all. And
no, I get that. I
then,
get, I get it.
yeah, yeah. So then my partner at the time and I just talked about it. And we just kind of thought, the timing was right. Like that if something came up, I would then move on to do that and not be part of the business anymore. And things aligned. A new partner came in and bought me out at the time, and just pushed me down to a little tiny owner role. And
Yeah.
and then I got hired with Elegant Themes after a few other talking to a few other WordPress companies.
Yeah.
And at first I was hired, I was their event coordinator. They really wanted someone to plan events. They wanted someone to like basically plan WordCamp, but for Divi,
Yeah.
for Divi users. And that was 2019.
Yeah.
So the following year was the pandemic, and so that never happened. But
Yeah.
because of that, my role very much transitioned to community manager.
Okay.
So, and we all know what community managers do. A lot of them actually are a little bit different per company, but that is now what I do for Elegant Themes. I'm the community manager, doing what I love, taking care of the community that's around the product of Divi
It
for the
is,
time.
it is very, very fitting, if I may say so, for your qualities.
Yeah.
Obviously we've known each other a bit longer than
Yeah.
um, you know, briefly having met at some WordCamps. We've spoken, we've had dinners and stuff like that. But knowing you and knowing what a community manager does at a WordPress company such as Elegant Themes, I think that's a perfect match. So what what I'm curious about, though, are some of the details because as you know, there's a wide variety of what a community manager may do. And part of this podcast is me having the opportunity to talk to all different kinds of people in the community, and I like to show as many different roles as there possibly are. Yours is a very interesting one because it touches it, and it's a great example of how you can be connected to the community, but you don't have to write code or you don't have to
Yeah.
be knee deep into understanding how the inner workings of WordPress intertwine with each other and how you can produce this and this and that. Can you share a little bit more about what community manager means? I can imagine you're possibly connecting to different social channels and stuff like that. Is that the
Hmm.
line of thought, or please enlighten
You
me?
know, yeah, no, it goes for me, it goes deep. It goes really deep. Of course, there are definitely touch points, social media and, Slack and all sorts of platforms, especially because most of it is virtual,
Yeah.
and of course, touch points could be a WordCamp, could be another conference where you're meeting with the community and things like that.
Hmm.
And and I'm sure throughout the rest of our conversation, this will be heavily laced of the depth of where it is for me. And that is basically my why, like why I exist, or at least, I mean, I didn't put myself here on this earth, but here I am.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why. I mean, I have a why and I'm going to live it out every day. And for me, I get to do that with my role.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I don't code, and I, am an moderate implementer, I think, and definitely user, but it's not about that for me. Like there are
Hmm.
many platforms. We all know the climate right now of our competition and where WordPress is today.
Yeah.
But like, but we are humans at the end of the day, and humans need connection. And I love being a connector. I absolutely love it. And I take that with me everywhere I go. So, uh, for instance, Elegant Themes, we have a Meetup Pro community, just like WordPress does.
Yeah.
And we have meetups all over the world. And I coach them, I guide them on how to build community, and it goes deep. I say a lot of, I think, offensive words that I don't think are offensive, but I think they are offending, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
say, like the words like, if somebody feels warm, welcome, then they're going to come back.
Yeah.
If somebody feels loved, then they're going to bring back, like,
That's a good.
and it's
That's a good one.
so yeah, so it's just that really is what it is for me. Like everywhere I go, I mean, I'm a remote worker, but I am in the co-working space because I love people. I love connecting. I just have my absolute why in life is that everywhere I go, wherever my feet are, I will build community. Meaning I will make connection. I will smile at somebody. I will leave the space I was just in better than how I entered it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's kind of a big picture answer to your question, and I'm
It
sure
it
that's
it,
going to be
it
laid
is.
throughout.
It brings in a lot of philosophical standpoints as well. But I like that. That's that's you. So yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to wrap my head around what you just in passing just to sort of mentioned that you organize or help guide organize meetups
Hmm.
revolving around Divi,
Hmm.
meaning there's people that work with Divi that gather just like a WordPress meetup. I'm assuming
Yep.
gather around, do presentations, talk about, connect, all of that in the pretext of learning more about Divi.
Huh?
Is it as literal as that?
That's 100% what it is.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So I don't work with Divi, but
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to learn that is as big. I know it's big, but it's this big in terms of having that sort of yeah, how do you,
Reach.
yeah, reach and in turn having that sort of effect on smaller communities. That's pretty wild.
Sure. Yeah. So there's a lot of, I'm actually glad. So there's a lot I identify with and share values with when it comes to Elegant Themes as a company. One, they're local, so they're stateside based, and
Yeah,
I am, always wherever I am, I want to support local, no matter where I am in the world. And they are bootstrapped. That's one of my personal faves, and actually, they were the first to the world. I mean, we are the ones who shook things up in WordPress. I mean, we are the ones to make Matt, well, like much respect for him. I really like Matt, but like, kind of get a little like, what's going on here with this like page builder that's like causing, a disruption to WordPress. And
yep,
we're the first on the market. In fact, today we're the biggest premium page builder in the entire world. Like we don't have a freemium option, and there's the big difference there. But, our biggest competitor definitely is Elementor, and
yeah,
once Elementor hit the market, like, they very much they know the CEO and at Elegant Beans, and they very much said, "We're here to copy exactly what you guys do, and but do it better." And of course, more money always
How,
gives you more opportunities,
how
so
did Nick respond to that? Because that's an interesting one.
yeah.
And for those listening,
Yeah,
Nick is the CEO of Elegant Themes. That's
Nick Roach.
yeah, yeah. That's an interesting thing to learn and then having to react to because I'm assuming there's a reaction part as well.
Yeah, it was actually, I'm pretty sure at WordCamp US, maybe 20 early iteration. It might have been a 20, like a Philly or a Nashville.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, well, actual US, not San Francisco.
Oh.
Um, so, and it was before they were big, and yeah, he was definitely like, okay, like, how anyone might react to that. Like someone coming right up to you and saying, "Hey, I'm going to take what you do and do it better."
Yeah.
Um, but it, it causes competition, and competition at the end of the day is good,
It's
for
good.
the
It
most
drives
part.
innovation.
100%. I mean, of course, there's definitely some headache and heartache that comes with it at times,
Sure.
but so his response, I would think, would be like any other red-blooded male who created something, like not the biggest fan of it, but at the same time, okay, I hear you, I see you, So from there, it's caused a lot of good things. Like again, we don't fundraise, so we do things a little bit different.
Yeah.
We're also slow and steady. Like we're not, like trying to like just come out of the door with guns blazing, belt and whistles. But we got things brewing right now that are going to be pretty game changing for sure. But anyway, all that to say is, so there's definitely this sub community
Yeah.
of WordPress that is Divi,
Yeah.
and I mean, there is some like just when I got there, I was like, "What is this?" I was like, "Yeah, like I did not know." Like, there are people who are gung ho, like Divi, like I mean, I would imagine some have Divi tattooed on their body. Like some have WordPress tattooed on their body.
I know a few actually.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Dre.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of too,
Yeah.
Dre.
Yeah. Dre and
I don't know if I
Hugo.
answered the question fully.
Hugo Beta also has a WordPress tattoo, but I'm sure there's more. Probably Andrew
Yeah,
Norcross as well.
that's true. He like he gets tattoos, like he gets coffee and
Yes.
so
Yes. Love the guy. But yeah, so
yeah.
that is a huge community. That's way larger than most people think. So um, I'm 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 pretty much in the core of the WordPress community, right? So um, having being one of the co-founders of WordCamp Netherlands, WordCamp Europe, quite active on the Dutch side of things in terms of translations early on and forum and everything like that. So you get to meet a lot of people, and
Hmm.
for the vast majority, those people are mostly like-minded, right? That's kind of how it works. So there's a lot of plugin developers, there's a lot of agency owners and stuff like that. And in learning those people and the people they know, and then as the community sort of grows, it's very easy to forget there's other versions of the community as well. And I'm doing a long monologue here, but bear with me. So one of the things that I've learned over the last year and a half, as I was sort of for myself, just kind of figuring out what direction I wanted to go, because the last 16 years are not going to be the same as the next 16 years, is kind of my thinking. I discovered there's huge communities way outside of my purview. Like you're mentioning Divi, I was aware of that, but I did not know how large that was. And you're even making it larger with what you just
Yeah.
explained. You have the same thing happening with Elementor, obviously. And what I also discovered is that on mediums where I'm not very active, that doesn't mean there's not a very huge, large, active WordPress related community. I think YouTube for me is one of the like most eye opening things in terms of if you
Mhm.
obviously I knew there were WordPress tutorials on YouTube because I've
Right.
watched them, I've used them, of course. But to know that there's folks that have close to 350,000 subscribers just because they're talking about Divi, Elementor, all these products that I don't personally use
Right.
is mind blowing to really dive into and understand. So to wrap it up, one of those people is Ferdi Korpershoek, which is also a Dutch person. Um, he'll be speaking at WordCamp Netherlands, and as I'm helping him because it'll be his first talk at a WordCamp, you get to know
Oh,
the
wow.
person and you get to know the communities that they work with and how large and interactive that is. I'm like, whoa, it's fascinating to learn, which is why I'm very curious about your story, right? You service those communities that most of us just don't see. What is your
Right.
yeah, what is your because you are in both, I would say. You're quite known inside the core community for as much as that is a thing, as well as those in the parameters around it. How is that for you?
Well, I mean, it definitely makes your world bigger. It makes your awareness of your space, and by you, I mean us individually, me,
Yeah,
you, everyone, smaller. So, like we think we're kind of a big deal in WordPress. like, and I do side work with Matt Madeira, the VP Minute,
Yeah.
and love Matt dearly.
Yeah.
Definitely an OG in WordPress, and he really puts in good perspective of like how big WordPress actually is.
Hmm.
When you think about it, we're not that big compared to other communities, or tech,
Sure.
like closed software and all that. And so it really kind of gives me more of a like, you're in your village and you're a big deal. You've got the most cattle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you venture outside of your village and you're in this bigger, not so villagey, but maybe a little bit more advanced. And
Holy
there's
cow!
like
This person has 10 times more cows than I do.
and
Sorry,
there's
I had
way
to
more
throw in the holy
people.
cow there. Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean it's been a lot of that, I would say. I mean, honestly, like I said earlier, like when I got exposed to I literally got hired with Elegant Themes and then understood how big this community was, this
Yeah.
sub community, and how gung ho people were. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
definitely crossover. So I would say like me, I'm a crossover. I'm in both.
Yeah.
There's others I know of that are huge. Andrew Palmer, a lot of people
Yeah.
for the AI. He was one of the founding Divi. I called him like,
Yeah.
who was just a hardcore Divi user, and he's still when he uses page builders. Or I know like he dabbled, but I know he still says like Divi is his preferred. So I mean, there's some crossover, but like, yeah, you just basically get exposed to how little we actually are and how much bigger the space actually is. And I mean, and which actually is a kudos to WordPress. And I still very much believe in the project, but like, that's what it causes. It just,
Hmm.
we have our community, our space, our contribution to the project, but then there's these sub communities that are
Yeah.
coming out of it. And that's really cool and unknown somewhat.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Unless you. So, like I mentioned, I intentionally started looking at other locations where WordPress communities could be over the end of 2022. And as you do, you discover that there is way more than you were actually aware of, and like not a little bit way more, like hell of a way more. Like whoa.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah. YouTube in particular always kind of throws me off because there's people who are just, like you said, huge. You have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of them aren't even involved with the WordPress community, the core community,
Correct.
and you're like, and they're not even necessarily involved with their local because there's a lot of us who are not involved with the core. And by core, I mean that more in a global space,
Yeah.
but some of us are very involved with our local, there. And I mean, I could think of like one woman here in Phoenix who I would consider like a mentor in my life. Her name's Carol Stamba. Amazing. This woman is ridiculous. She's amazing. And she is not known in the global space, and
Yeah.
she should be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it goes like that, you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
so many people who are doing amazing things and they're just not as known in the core space, but that doesn't make them not relevant, and yet we
Oh,
kind of don't give them the time of day.
I
So
I agree, and but it's hard
yeah.
to get to know somebody that you're not
Sure.
aware of that they're existing
Yeah,
or what they're
totally.
doing, unless you
Yeah,
also happen to start using that product.
absolutely.
Is it a catch 22? Is there a way
I
around it?
I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of both, it's like, well, and even that, like, I might see somebody on YouTube and think like, "Oh, that's awesome. Oh, they're not even around. I wish I knew them." But it's like, there's no way for me to get to know them,
Mhm.
unless they come around or I necessarily come around to their area. But
Yeah.
again, if they're not coming out of their house, then we'll never, nobody ever will.
Are you also connecting with them, those types of influencers and stuff? Is that also part of your job? Like
Yeah.
the guy I just mentioned, Ferdy Koppershoek, I know he's been using Divi a lot, or has been at
I
least.
wonder if he's the one I know of. Um, I haven't been able to as much because I'm pretty slammed with what I do.
Mhm.
These are the things I want to do more of, actually. I want to do more of connecting with more of the influencers. We had all sorts of plan. Yeah, I'm sure you know how it is. There's only one me. I am the one and only community period person at
Right,
Elegant Themes.
right.
Events, community, anything regarding that, it is me. It is Raquel. And so there's only so much I can do.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's
Time
no
is
other
finite.
like, yeah, like so, but that is very much on my docket. That and actually, I'll be at work at Netherlands, so
You will be.
I'll
Oh,
have to
nice.
meet him.
Nice. Well,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
will
My
meet him.
my friend Remkes convinced me.
Oh, he's a good convincer then.
Yeah.
So, if you look at the community that is under your wings, if I may call it that, would you say that does that even split up into smaller sub communities? Is that, or is it everybody joins for the love of Divi and it's all one sort of community? Or, I mean, I'm trying to figure out if there's even a, does it even narrow down more into certain things? Are there plugin developers just doing Divi stuff? Are there,
Mm,
I don't know. How does that work?
yes, yes, actually, there's Elegant Themes Marketplace, which is actually that's all it is Divi plugins that are meant to like,
Fascinating.
like yeah, in partnership with your Divi installation.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot there. That's all they do. And they're actually pretty, I would say, Divi royalty when it comes to users.
Yeah.
They know them and love them. And there's a little bit of I would say for like just a DIY sort of little community too, where
Yeah.
they discover Divi in the same way someone might discover Wix or Squarespace.
Sure. Yeah.
So they don't even actually know about WordPress, but they find out about Divi and they just
And
do
the-
what they're supposed to be. They just do what they're told,
yeah. And they just
and
happen to
they
know that they need to do Divi inside of WordPress, but whatever.
but they don't even actually know that it's inside of WordPress. Like in fact, like the Divi Facebook group is like 75K people, and there's definitely so many. Sometimes someone will come in there and the question is absolutely WordPress related and not Divi related, and then
Yeah.
you're also like, I don't know if they know what WordPress is,
Yeah. Interesting.
but yet they're here having a Divi site and trying to figure.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that, but otherwise, I would say it's mostly just sub community of WordPress. Some people are in both, and that if anything, the bigger community that has spun from it is definitely plugin developers
Yeah.
that make products just to enhance your Divi experience.
Yeah. I I have this assumption that there's all walks of life in terms of WordPress development stuff, like building sites. All walks of life are inside of your community, meaning from
Yeah,
somebody who can figure out how to set up a site in Divi, like probably low level, kind of just figuring
yeah,
stuff out, knows
mhm,
enough to be dangerous sort of level, all the way up to agencies just ramming out dozens of sites per month. Is that the
yes,
uh,
yeah, no, very much. There are definitely freelancers and agencies who are just boom, 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 churning out
yeah,
Divi site like crazy. I mean, and there's like now, you know how page builder world is. It's
yeah,
like, a lot of the layouts are what's like super, super popular. I mean, I don't even have the number on how many layouts. I mean, we our design team, that's what they do is boom, boom, boom.
yeah,
I mean, now there's so many different types. Like there's like a bushcraft layout, like
yeah,
it
yeah,
gets
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
esoteric, of what you
So
can do now with layout.
that has always been the strong suit of elegant themes, right? The design. Before
Yeah,
they had Diffie, they always had themes that
right.
had
Yeah.
a modern, very contemporary design. Like you'd look at that and go like, "Ooh, that looks good. I can see this person's site that I need to build. I can see it in having to have that design."
Yeah.
And I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I used to work with Genesis framework mostly. I
Mhm.
have I won't say copy, but been heavily inspired by certain elegant theme
The
designs
way to
over
do
the
it.
years because
Yeah.
um, I would build them from scratch anyway. But here's a nice
Right.
looking one. Is that
Yeah. That's always been go ahead.
now? I was going to say is that still because obviously the design part is still very heavy inside of Divi. Is there a lot happening outside of Divi within Elegant Themes?
No, it's just Divi now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, we've been waiting, but see, and they would before I even got on their desire was to rebrand to Divi and drop elegant themes, but they
Yeah.
couldn't get Divi.com. And we actually just got it. We just
Ah,
got Divi.com.
do we have a
Um
scoop here?
and I don't know if the transition is gonna happen. I just know that we actually got it. It's funny too, because what prompted it was I know you have daughters and a wife, and
Yeah.
but I know you personally do not partake of makeup. At least last I checked. But
Correct.
like makeup stores,
Yeah.
there's this new brand called Divi. It's Divi. It's called Divi, I literally was at an Ulta. I don't know if you know what an Ulta is, and I
No,
just see this like end cap display of this Divi product. It's for hair. It's like for hair regrowth and like hair conditioning, and I
interesting.
was like, "What?" And I like
Trademark,
posted it.
trademark.
Yeah, and I was like, guys, I guys like was like the beauty industry is trying to front.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like
yeah,
and actually Nick chimed in. He's like, that's actually what got us to fight for Divi.com
yeah,
because they saw that. But like again, pain is what usually makes us make decisions.
yeah, yeah. It will, it
And
will.
yeah, but we'll see what if we actually do rebrands. But that is what we do
It
exclusively
it
Divi.
would it would be one of my long awaited rebrands. I've
Yeah,
long waited for. Why isn't Elegant Themes doing to something like divitheme.com, whatever, I don't care, but just something more
yeah.
along the lines of Divi. Just as I'm, and this is probably never going to happen, but I still hope that WordPress.com will rebrand as jetpack.blog, just because I think it makes more sense. But that may be me. Um,
That's so funny. Oh, that's too good. That's
I
too
was,
good.
for anyone longer active in the WordPress community, especially on the inside, where we know the difference between .org and .com, you know that that line is very ambiguous. It's probably there for some reason, not being very clear. So switching to jetpack.blog, makes perfect sense in my head, just to have a full separation on what is WordPress and what is Jetpack. But that's a sidetrack.
It's funny.
Yeah. Maybe not to some of the listeners, but if you don't like it, please let me know. Please let me know.
I
Um,
mean, it's funny. Even if it shouldn't happen, it's still funny.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna check right now if jetpack.blog actually redirects to. This is me typing into my browser.
That is so funny.
Well, it doesn't seem to
It's
resolve.
serious.
So the connection is not secure. So no, probably not.
Mm,
Oh, it does.
mm,
But it does. It goes to jetpack.com slash blog. So it goes to the blog of Jetpack.
mm.
Ah, okay. I can see this happening still.
Your dream is still alive.
My dream is still alive. So for a long time WordCamp organizer, you've
Mhm,
been also to many WordCamps.
mhm.
One of the things I always find fascinating is the differences between a community in location X and community in location Y. Um, Obviously, there's a difference. I mean, obviously, from my perspective, I've been to WordCamp US, I've been to WordCamp Europe. There's a difference in that. But do you see a difference in how WordCamps in the US are versus the sort of interaction that you can gather? Do you even see Diffie crowds at WordCamps? Let me start with that one.
Yes. So actually, my very first sort of experience with Divi users was at WordCamp Orange County 2017.
Yeah,
It was literally the weekend before WordCamp Europe in Paris that year. And I did like a back to back like sandwich of work camps. And
you're brave.
so yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love that. But anyway, I'm there, and there is just this crowd of a bunch of people herding together in purple shirts,
Uh huh.
just like the entire time. And I'm like, what is going on? Finally, I like asked my good friend Brandon that. I was like, what is people in the purple shirt? And he's like, oh, those are Divi. I was like, what? I didn't even know what it was. So this Modifect, we were always team Beaver Builder, which
Yeah.
actually inside scoop, Beaver Builder and Divi we're all really good friends. Like the CEOs,
Nice.
like all the C levels and like Robbie, Billy, Justin, like really good friends. Like
Yeah.
we're always really in fact, when I got hired with Elegant Beans, I immediately messaged them. I was like, guys, are we still good friends? Still love you. But
Yeah.
anyway, but we were always team Beaver Builder, so I didn't even know what Divi was. But yeah, so going to that WordCamp, so what would happen was Divi would choose a WordCamp throughout they would choose a local and then US
Yeah.
and then have basically like a Divi
Meetups and
meetup
stuff. Yeah.
at at
Yeah.
the WordCamp. But
And
no, to answer the more broader question, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference for sure. Like for instance, like WordCamp Phoenix, our team just coincidentally has several people who know actually how to run a conference, like
yeah.
regardless of WordCamp. So our conferences have always been and I'm gonna brag, but I'm not one to brag unless it's true.
Hmm.
If that can
That's
be
the
so
way it
bold.
should be.
And yeah, and we put on an amazing show. Like we just kill it. We just kill it. Like just it's everything. Everything is thought out. Everything. I just love it. And partly because we have an amazing team.
Hmm.
But then you go to some camps, like for instance, WordCamp Orange County, always one of my most favorite camps. It's not big. It's maybe 200, 250 people, but it's like so sweet and so just full of the feels and friends.
Yep.
And I love the way they run an efficient, simple camp. It's just amazing. And then you might go to another camp that like you could tell they phoned it in. So, like, like there's just like here we are, handwritten signs,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily bad, but like it's just different.
More of a grassroots approach.
Culturally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely noticed too. Like, I mean, like let's compare WordCamp US to WordCamp Europe. Like, I think organizing, and I've been on the WordCamp US organizing team for 3 years.
Hmm.
And I have volunteered at WordCamp Europe. I know you've been an organizer for years.
Yep.
And organizing wise, it's similar, I would say. But I don't know what it is, and maybe it's other people compared to Americans, but just there's just this like passion at WordCamp Europe of the
There is.
attendees,
Yeah.
like, and the after party blows any other after party out of the water. Like I mean, this past one, I know it was a little on the like, okay, we only get one option here, but
Yeah.
like, of
Yeah.
course, that option is one that Raquel usually likes, but like, I do like to talk to people too. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't just only like to dance on the table for everybody. That was a
Yeah.
little incriminating, now that I just said that, but you know, but like, it's still like they both have their place for me. So they are a lot of camps are pretty different, and actually, Netherlands will be my first local Europe camp.
Oh, interesting.
I
Interesting.
It'll be my first one.
It's
So I'm curious how it's gonna be.
yeah, so Dutch people, what can I say?
Okay, let me before you say, can I just say that maybe my thoughts are
Yeah,
as
sure. Yeah, yeah,
well,
please do.
half indigenous, half Latina American thinks of Dutch as pretty cool, calm, collected, and like
Yeah.
Joe and Jane cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty accurate. Um, um, in terms of vibe, I think it's very European, obviously. But I also think it's the European version of it's easy to connect as it is easy to just do it on your own entirely, and both are fine. I know there's also European countries where um, you are pulled in, and that's pretty much the only mode that's possible. Um,
Really?
well, I mean, not as black and white, but in terms of so
Okay.
Dutch people can be reserved, right? Can just kind
Yeah.
of keep to themselves, and that's fine, and you'll see that. But you'll also see the very large groups of people interacting and then stuff like that. So I think it's more of a mix in that regard. And we sure do like our after parties. Yeah. Um, I think we have an in between party
Yay.
this time. Um, and
Oh, that's right.
so, but yeah, so I'm aware there's differences, right? So I've been to work camps in Helsinki, Oslo, Bucharesti, Sevilla, Germany. I've been all over the map, and there is always a difference between the various communities. And I know the U.S. is supposed to be one country, but obviously it's
Oh my God. So
you know
different.
it's quite a different beast if we're really being honest. And my question was more like, is that noticeable from area to area, or is that, I don't know. I would imagine something in the South would happen differently than in California versus New York.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. So I've been to work camps all over the US for sure. So like Seattle, Miami,
Yep.
Minneapolis, the Midwest, everything on the coast of California, yeah, Southwest region of the US. And absolutely. No, absolutely. So the Midwest is hilarious. That Minneapolis, it's exactly what you would imagine
Yep.
for if you know the Midwest of the US.
I've been there.
Like I saw
Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, I'm pretty sure I knew that, but a guy was there wearing, the whole like keep Austin weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or yeah, like that's like a whole thing, keep Austin weird. So that some guy had a shirt that said, keep St. Paul boring. Like, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly like, and it's one of those where like the after party, I don't even remember what exactly it was. I think we like all were at a restaurant just hanging. And then at that point, it was like, okay, guys, what are we doing? Where are we going? We all
Yeah. Yeah.
show up for like a half hour and then we leave.
Yeah.
And that's not
Interesting.
to knock it. It's just that's just the cultural
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, exactly. So
Like,
that's my
yeah,
curiosity. That's hence my question. I'm curious if you can identify different things because as you're alluding to having seen different work camps all over the U.S. as well as being in work at
yeah,
WordCamp Europe in different countries, you I would imagine have a pretty good idea of what differences are. It's always fascinating to learn of these. Would you say that the Diffie community is a particular way, or is it as whatever where we are?
a particular way.
Well, for instance, there's a difference between WordCamp Europe and WordCamp US. That's a different vibe.
Mm, okay.
Does the Diffie crowd have a particular vibe that you would identify no matter where you are? I'm just kind of curious how a community like that works,
Uh,
and if at all you encounter such.
yeah, I mean, I will say that, like, for instance, culturally, there's going to be differences no matter what, right? Like,
Yeah, sure.
for WordPress users in general who are in Asia, which Asia in itself is super diverse, versus Africa,
Yeah,
versus Europe, versus US, versus or Europe, North America versus South America. They're all going to have their flair of their culture,
yeah.
right? But Divi in particular, I will say there's something identifiable. Divi users are hardcore. They're like,
What is
I
hardcore?
choose Divi.
Like,
So like meaning like the fact that they choose their product, and they choose it with intention. So
right?
at this point, Elementor is the biggest because, they've got the freemium, which makes sense. So because of that, anybody who is a Divi user in any, especially not in Americas, but if you're in other parts of the world, if you're a Divi user, you are like hardcore. You're like I'm a Divi user. Like I would imagine like a football fan, and I mean that in the not American football, like
Okay,
like
proper
soccer
football,
football.
not egghand.
Yes, proper football. Yes, again, yes. I remember you always say that, but they're hardcore. They're like they mean business. They are like pro. They're the biggest fan. They're like,
Yeah,
this is my team, and I'm sticking with my team no
yeah,
matter what.
yeah.
And I would say that's identifiable of a Divi user across the globe is
Cool.
because we are no longer number one, that we now have a chip on our shoulder.
Yep.
Most of the time, it's never like bad. Like Divi users are not like arrogant, I would say, but they are very much like, this is my product. This is what I choose and I love it. So
Y-
that I think
Yeah.
something identifiable.
Isn't it fun how you can? Because the reason I'm asking is I'm trying to get a feel of it. Right. I'm not in that community. I'm trying to get a feel of what that is like, and as you described it, I'm like, this is fun that to have these differences in a group is fascinating. Obviously, it goes back to human nature. We're all different, and we all have
Yeah.
different roles and groups and all that, and it makes sense. But for the WordPress community to exist of so many different pools of community, I think that's fascinating. I love seeing it, interacting with it when I can, and it's just this thing that is, yeah. The more you deep dive into it, the more fascinating it becomes, in my mind.
Mhm. Absolutely. I feel honestly like a little bit privileged. I never imagined I would be working for Elegant Theme.
Hmm.
They found me at WordCamp Phoenix 2019 because I had led that iteration and
Yeah,
our 10-year anniversary, and it was incredible. And they're like, "You're what we're looking for," and I'm like, "Who are you?"
yeah. Please
And
identify
then
yourself.
yeah, and then when I like got in, I mean, honestly, I went in thinking like, what is this? And like, and once I was like accepted and was introduced, I was like, what is going on? Again, it's like the whole we talked about. It's like seeing areas of WordPress you didn't even know existed
Yeah,
and made WordPress bigger and made you smaller.
yeah,
So it's like, but then you gain knowledge, and knowledge is not just power, but knowledge is empowering.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you get and if you have love, I'm going to say it, then it actually can be used in a really good way,
Hmm.
as opposed to you just want to conquer the world. then
Yeah,
maybe that's not the best that you know everything.
I agree. I agree. There's this whole extra layer inside the community. Um, I forget who I was talking to this week, but somebody said something along the lines of, "I didn't know how good a community could be on until I stepped into the WordPress community." They came from Joomla, and I go like, "That's an interesting way to," because Joomla's not a bad community. It's not. It's there's you know mm, possibly just as great. But the experience of that person was I stepped into a community that was absolutely warm welcoming me versus just existing in that community and having good interactions. That's a difference, right? To me, that's the WordPress community as well. And it's just I keep hearing stories like this, and it keeps being fascinating, like how a particular piece of software and the people creating it, and I mean that in the broadest sense of the word, happen to vibrate in a similar mode for you to connect to, allowing you to have these, I feel warm and welcome. I that to me
Yeah.
is the most fascinating thing. Every single time I'm deep diving with somebody into the world of WordPress, it's
And I have to agree. It's funny because it attracts that, right? Like, for instance, um, I've gone my whole life to WordPress of like feeling like I never was just automatically accepted in
yeah,
the communities and the places I was a part of, that I had to earn it, that I had to act a certain way. Think about like popularity in high school that you just had to have that. Where WordPress, the community, I feel like gives voice to some degree, gives voice to the voiceless, right? The ones
yeah.
who didn't have that platform,
So that to
but
me is democratizing publishing as well.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. But to that point too, there's been some who I think have been attracted to it in order to exploit it.
Yeah,
I mean, the community has been really strong for over a decade. Like I would say that the 2000s it was beginning stages, the grassroots, the founding, but then in
yeah,
the teens, really, really, especially the early teens, I feel like, and if you were around in the early teens and you're here still today, you're like, oh, you're one of the OGs.
yep.
But
Shout
like,
out, shout out to the
yeah, no,
OGs.
totally, totally. But like because of that, it attracted people who maybe didn't have the best intentions,
Sure.
and 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 I would say they were still welcome. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
if you get it and you have the right heart. I shouldn't feel bad for saying things like that, but
No,
sometimes I
you
do because
shouldn't.
I'm like, oh gosh, I'm gonna lose somebody. Somebody's gonna be like, shut up. She's silly. She's
She's so
funny. But
mushy.
anyway, yeah, yeah. But it's true because if you have the right mindset, here we go. There's a word everybody loves. If you have the right mindset, then those people are still welcome. They're probably not going to laugh because
Yeah,
they're not going to get
I would
exactly
agree.
what they want if our community stays this way. And again, I still say people are welcome, but if you're here and there's a reason why you're here, it's usually because we have that vibe.
Hmm.
We have that vibration that we share.
Yeah,
And if we keep doing that, then it's going to keep getting better. And then all those people are still welcome and maybe they'll get better.
yeah,
That's my hope, is that they'll be affected and maybe their intentions will change. Maybe they didn't even realize they had the intentions. Maybe their mind will be like, I came in for this, but actually this happened and I'm a changed person.
yeah.
So I don't know. That's my hope.
That's a beautiful hope. I have on my WordPress profile page, I have one line that says, "I came for the software. I ended up with a family," and
Uh,
that's kind of what you're saying here.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, totally.
and I mean a family of
Totally.
choosing, right? Not of blood, which you bicker with and wrestle through youth to whatever, but the family of belonging. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I belong here. There's plenty of people that go to me and say, like, I don't understand how you're. Um, so I started contributing back to WordPress early 2008, probably 2007 to 2008. They go like, I don't understand how you're doing this for 15 years. Like, what are you getting out of it? And they're asking that question specifically because they don't think I'm getting enough out of it. Like, so
Yeah.
what does it give back to me? And I usually explain something along the lines of, if I need to start explaining what I'm getting back from it, um, buckle up, have a seat, and we'll be here for a few hours, because it's more than I get better software or I get to know people. It's yeah, those are some of the elements, but there's so much more.
It
As
was very multifaceted.
it is. And what I find fascinating about what you do is that you happen to be able to facilitate that for a very specific community, which I would imagine being a very gratifying role.
In so many ways, it very much is. I think for that, kind of the eye-opening moment was the end of 2020.
Yep.
Uh, we know when the pandemic first began, and I was crushed. I was crushed. I was going through an awful divorce, and at the beginning, so I'm like trapped in this house with somebody, you know,
Yep.
one could
Yep.
imagine fill in the gap,
Yep.
and then had several transition, moving and having three teenagers to still guard their heart through the transition. And my dream of creating this event for Divi was crushed,
Mhm.
and everything went virtual. And on top of that, if anyone knows me, I know you know me, fuck virtual. I realized they like,
I have a bleep here somewhere. Too late.
but like, but again, for as the main supplement, yes, you
Yeah.
and I, what we're doing right now, love it.
Yeah.
But we went to an 100% virtual world. I mean, I was crushed. My psyche, everything inside of me was dying. Was dying. This is
Oh,
how to kill Raquel. You want to know how to kill Raquel? Like, go to an all virtual
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oasis,
Doesn't work
throwback
for me
to Ready
either.
Player One. Yeah.
I
Um, but then go ahead.
No, no, go. Please continue.
I was just gonna say that, and that was the at the end of the year, because I just knew I had to implement. I had to implement everything virtually. So I'm like, and teaching this entire, at the time there was like 70 groups of how to move everything online, how to
Y
have an online meetup, how to still engage, how to still all this. Like, and then so many things happened that year that I didn't even realize, like, the effect of my gifting
Mhm.
until the end.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I'm sorry, I think this was, yes, it was 2020. So they, at the end of the year, when I had like my end of the year review, I was like crying, like, cause like I could not believe, I feel like that was the moment I realized like how perfect I am for this sort of role.
Yeah.
And what I do for communities is because my manager was just blown away. I was blown away. I didn't. It's like all these things compounded, and I got, because any community, when it's successful is when they start doing stuff.
Mhm.
Like you
Yep.
do what you do, and if the community lasts because of you, that's great. But you know what's only because of you. But then when they spin-offs start happening and they're doing the things that you do and they're getting motivated, they're getting inspired, and they're
That's
creating
the
their
sign
little
of you
projects.
being successful.
Yes, and that's what happened, and I was like, "What? Like, this is virtual." Like, I was mad, and then here that happened, and of course, I still don't prefer virtual, but, like, as a supplement, totally fine, but that's when I knew. I was like, "See, this is what you were born for. You're born to create connection amongst humans, because the humans that feel connected are gonna go out and connect some more, whether it's through their Divi meetup, or whether it's walking down the street, or whether it's at a WordPress WordCamp,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
gonna keep doing it. So I
Yeah.
love it.
It's a beautiful story. Um, I I I love it as well. And
I get giddy.
mm?
I get giddy.
Yeah, but that's I love that about your story, about you. That's a perfect example of a part of the community that is probably not as visible unless you start looking at it.
Yeah.
You are the glue, right, between the software, the product, and the community in various ways. And I think I, I love your explanation, and it's wonderful to actually see it radiate from you as you are explaining it. That I think that's a great thing. So I'm very grateful for you appearing on the podcast and talking about this because I think it's a beautiful side of the WordPress community that more people should be aware of. So I want to thank you for this conversation, and yeah, I had a great time.
Hey, no, thanks for having me, Ramkit. I really think you or mentioned earlier about feeling like I came for the software, but I gained a family,
Hmm.
something like that. Like, there's so much truth to that. What makes me relate to that is how much I feel like I have gained so many brothers in this community, and you are one of them.
Well, thank you.
Sisters too.
Thank you.
There's definitely more men than women, but like I when I talk to people about Ramkit, I'm like, he's my Dutch brother. They say, which is funny because Dutch Bros is a very popular coffee chain here in America.
I'm not
No,
familiar
no,
with
he's
it.
an actual Dutch Bro.
So
Oh, and you would not like it.
next time we're
You
stateside,
would not like it.
you're going to
Yes,
have to take me, even though I
I
don't drink coffee, but need to I
you
need to experience that.
you do.
All
But
right,
yeah, you're my actual Dutch Bro.
excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.